Three, two, one, and we are live with the HODL Report, coming to you all the way from YouTube. So tonight, definitely have some great things to talk about, as we always do. As we start out the stream, for those of you that are tuning in on the replay, normally we kind of get everything ready in the first minute or two, make sure that I'm able to monitor the stream, make sure we're not getting any lag, allow a few people to on right away. We've got XRP Minute popping in right away. Hello. And we've got a visitor here, so getting ready for bed, and wanted to pop in and say hello to all of those that are joining in for the stream. So got a couple people bounced in here. We've got Annalise George. Who do we have right there? Who's this right here? Right here, read this. Yeah, what do you say?
Good evening from my Vincent Wilson.
Awesome, Vincent Wilsons. You like those Vincent Wilsons? Every Vincent Wilson is 20,000 XRP, by the way.
Okay.
Out. See that chip? Out. All right. Now we're ready to go. That was so all right, let's get this kicked off now. I got my phone buzzing over here, and see that chip? He's been listening. He's been picking up on the vernacular of the chipisms. Chipisms, vernacular. How do we say that? So, all right, let's get this kicked off. Let's get some energy here. We got some great things to talk about. We got people bouncing in. As always, what do we got going on? We got XRP. Angel Connie popped in here. Metzner's in. Hey, Metzner, what's going on? Obviously, we recognize Bubba Shipes already that popped in here. Really interesting. Want to hear a little bit about it. I understand that Metzner and Chip met up for lunch today. Somewhere in the southeast, so maybe you can let us know. You guys can share. So anyhow, let's see who bounced into the stream first tonight. We got XRP Carolina, and with that, first in the stream, we're gonna carry on this tradition as long as we can. First in the stream, get some free XRP. So let's get this going out to XRP Carolina, and then you can do with what you please. If you want to donate it and keep it moving through the community, that's awesome. Really appreciate everybody for bouncing on. There we go. And we got some XRP going out to XRP Carolina. Awesome. So let's see how fast that is, because that should be like instantaneous. How the speed at which we've got XRP traveling around the globe. So, awesome. There we go. That's twice in one day. I think I'm going to start mixing it up. I'm going to pick somewhere a little bit further down on the list. That first spot is great, but I'm going to keep you guys guessing now. That's going to be awesome. We've got Michelle Lynn, Michael Lynn, Pin. All right. I don't want to butcher your name. Sorry about that. So let's start this off. I see Danny Torres on as well. All right. Let me get to my notes. Let me get focused here. And so before I get into what I wanted to talk about, and I do want to talk about banking with no borders, because I think it's really important that we dig in, and we've been talking about banks. So I figured, we're going to talk about banks. Let's keep this theme going as long as we can on the whole banking cycle. But before I get into that, I wanted to look at something that popped up in the news over the past couple days. And actually, Jamie Dimon weighed in on student loan debt and was saying what a disservice they've done for students. And yes, they have done a significant disservice to students through the loans. But really, we're only seeing, don't get too deep. Yeah, it might get cut again. It keeps getting cut, Z-Bit, so I don't know what's up with that. But, when they're talking about student loan debt, they're only focused on one component of it, and that's the debt that the students are carrying. They seem to ignore all the other aspects of what's going on within the student debt cycle. And so, I've talked about this before, but it keeps popping up. It's been a top of mind. It's kind of been aggravating. And this doesn't necessarily have a lot to do yet with digital assets, but it does directly impact the economy. Anything that impacts the economy impacts the digital asset space. And if we think about the last major recession and really global financial crisis, we saw Bitcoin and the digital asset space birthed out of the last economic crisis. So I think this is really important that we focus in on what leads up to a financial crisis. And I know DNI talks about all these different aspects. What's up, Rain? Good to see you on. Hey, is it I'm going to try one more time. Is it Michael Lynn, Michelle Lynn, Michael Pinjuve? Maybe you can and we'll get the accurate pronunciation. So it's easy if you're just typing it. So wish you could stay for class. The political class speaking out. Oh, here we go. Michaelin. Pinu. Pinu. Now everybody's typing here. All right, there we go. Everybody's transliterating. Perfect. All right, the big question though of the day is who's down with OTC? And there we go. So the clown debate is on. All right, so so when we dig into the now I'm completely off base. When we dig into this debt crisis and we dig into the $1.3 trillion in student loan debt, we have so many lies or maybe just misinformation. Maybe it's a purposeful reiteration of this misinformation. But the government officials, those who are running for elected office, seem to again they look at student debt and they're appealing to emotions. And so much of politics and running for a political office has to do with appealing to people's ideologies, people's political mindset, and much of it has to do with churning up emotions. And we're seeing that more and more, that there's a focus on emotions and more focus on emotions and less focus on everything else. And when we hone in and we hear these guys talking about student loan debt and the student loan debt crisis, then we have to look at the entire picture. So when they say that there's a student loan debt and we need to figure out a way to resolve it, then what the hell, let's get to the bottom of it. Now, those that are running for elected office speaking out that they need to charge off the $1.3 trillion in student loan debt. Now think about what that impact would be to the economy, but think about why is it that the students have racked up $1.3 trillion in student loan debt to begin with. Now, the one thing that the banks know and colleges know, specifically universities know, is that student loans are government backed and they're pushing loans to those who can't afford the loan. They know specifically that students coming out of the universities won't be able to get a job, paying enough to pay off the loans. Now, the problem here isn't so much that the students are getting the loans. The problem is that the universities understand that the government is going to keep pushing the banks to keep funding these loans. And as a direct result, the universities and colleges keep increasing tuition. Bam, there you go. Look at that. Danny Torres, colleges fleecing the students with high tuition. And that is exactly, what's been happening. It specifically has to do with high tuition costs. Now, the thing is, the universities keep increasing tuition costs, and they know that the banks are going to keep funding the high tuition. And the higher the universities go, the more money the funding goes. And then the government backs it. And it's the only loan that can't be discharged in a bankruptcy. So all of them are kind of acting, together to create this kind of a bad scenario. Now, what is crazy about the concept of erasing $1.3 trillion in debt is that it's also a form of transferring wealth over to these universities, because the universities have gotten paid, the students got their education, the banks are somehow going to be funded potentially, because at the end of the day, where's that money? How's it going to be discharged? They're not forcing the banks to discharge the debt. The government's essentially saying, we're going to pay the $1.3 trillion in debt. That means the taxpayers are going to pick up a burden of $1.3 trillion in debt, meaning that taxpayers are now going to be directly responsible to continuously funding the exceedingly high tuition rates and allowing universities to go on rampant spending binges that are going to be on the backs of the taxpayers. So the whole thing is way upside down, zero transparency, and that's why it circles back into digital assets, into the blockchain, because there's zero accountability by the universities. And so the fact that they keep bringing this up and they don't focus in on the actual true cause, creates a lot of problems. If they focused on the true cause of the debt and focused in on the fact that universities keep increasing their tuition rates as a result of, again, the government forcing or pushing banks to loan and backing those loans and making those loans such that they can't be discharged, so they basically stick with you. There's so much more to the picture, but yet the politicians will prey on the emotions of these younger people just coming out of college. Of course, you come out of college with $100,000 in debt. Who are you you're gonna say, yeah, you want to discharge my debt? I don't want $100,000 in college loans. Of course, discharge it. Now, who are you gonna vote for? So basically, they've now entered into a level of buying votes. So it's not so much that we support access to tuition. What they do have at this point is that they are, they're paying college students, they're paying recent graduates to vote for them, which borders at this point on an illegal overreach of a politician to make promises directly to individuals to say, vote for me, because if you do, then I'm going to make sure that you get paid X, which is the resolution of your debt to whatever banking institution as a result of going to college. So, there's a huge problem, and it's amazing that, mainstream media isn't focusing in on that, but mainstream media also doesn't like to walk down the path of actual fact. They prefer to talk in opinion instead of fact, and they prefer to prey on individual emotions. So that it's just been really, irking me for a while. And I just had to really emphasize this because it's definitely problematic. So Z-Bits, man, I appreciate that. You need your own talk show on the mainstream. That would be awesome. If I could get a couple 100 or 1,000 people following us in here, maybe I can make a case for it on the mainstream, and bring some of the ideas out there to the world. So, all right, let me go. Let's see, we got C. Reed popped in here. Carl Lewis, glad to see you up in here too. Subscribe, thumbs up. If you can. Let's see, Stuart H. The high tuition costs are directly related to the fact that the loans are underwritten by the feds and non-dischargeable. Exactly. That's 100%. That's exactly the problem. We have a lot of smart people that come into this chat, and so I'm sure when I talk about stuff like this, I'm just preaching to the choir. But sometimes you just got to vent, and sometimes you got to, vent, amongst people that are going to feed some and clarify your thought process and feed in some additional facts, would be really important. John Stevens, welcome. Private sector would never underwrite those loans. That's right. If it wasn't Fed backed, the private sector wouldn't do that. So the federal government is purposely transferring wealth over to universities. Unfortunately, universities have become the bastion of communism and socialist thought process. And you have individuals that are teaching at the university level that hold these so-called PhDs, which are just letters that come after their name, and they prance around calling themselves Dr. So-and-so. I don't mean to offend anyone if you have a PhD and you're a professor at a university, but for the most part, very few university professors actually have any real practical knowledge in the real world, in the private sector. Not to demean teaching, because I think teaching is pretty amazing. But when you spend your time and you prance around to be the expert in your subject, and you're going to carry this doctor in front of your name and the PhD behind it, what does that really mean if you have zero real world experience in your field? If you're teaching political science and you've never been actively involved in any shape or form in politics, if you're teaching economics and you've never worked for a business, that doesn't say much for your knowledge, and you're basically just regurgitating what you've read in books, and that's just a shame. It just doesn't make any sense. So Bubba Shipes, graduating college with debt and a new credit card, exactly, and they get you in trouble. The credit cards that they just give you, and you get free credit cards, definitely can get you in trouble. Hey, if you get a chance, can you give your opinion on the exchanges going down? Zbits. You know what? I wanted to bring that up because I saw Coinbase went down. Do you guys remember back 2017-ish, 2018, right in that height? Wasn't it Coinbase that crashed? Coinbase went down for a period of time also. That was I thought they were relatively new then, and they said, "Oh, we didn't expect this many people registering," and they kind of got shut down. Bubba Shipes, today I focused on kidnapping Vincent Wilson's half brother, only half as good, but same great bloodline. 10K. The half Vincent Wilson. So a half Vincent Wilson is also pretty good as a full Vincent Wilson. Let's see here. What do we got here? Rain. Bernie Nutjob Sanders will pay for everything. Free everything until we run out of other people's money. Hell yeah, that's exactly right. And people eventually learn. Hopefully. I don't know if people will learn. When we moon, Carolina, hit me up if you're interested in. Okay, that's you guys talk about that. Let's read something here. Let's go down. Keep going down. There we go. It seems like my phone is moving at a much faster clip than this is here. Let's see. It's official. BitTrue was hacked for over 9.3 trillion XRP and 2.5 ADA. Interesting. And one of the reasons why I didn't go and open up and put anything onto BitTrue, if that's the case. The exchange issue is suspicious. It definitely does seem a little suspicious. Definitely some issues. Stuart H., up until a couple of decades ago, you could discharge a student loan like any other loan in Chapter 7 for cause. Yep, and so now, forget about it. They've definitely flipped things upside down. Tina Hall, what's going on? Glad to see you on. Richter. All right, here we go. Let's scroll down here. Carl Lewis, you keep going down. You're going to be very popular. Which way am I going down? Down what? Keep going down what path? All right, let me get some water over here. Let's see what we got. Let's see. You're just going to join and get some VeChain. Stay away from it. Keep everything on the ledger. Let's see. Remember, avoid WB, what's up, man? Chinese Bamboo is in the house. Remember, avoid Byte BTC. Seriously, they robbed me. There are so many Byte BTC victims that they have their own Telegram channel. Wow, that's pretty serious. So let's see. Let's go down. Yeah, it's horrible when the exchanges go down, especially in an emotional period of time. And I kept getting the notifications I didn't check lately. Let me take a quick look here. Hang on. Let's pull this up. Pull it up on the phone. Let's see what's going on in the crypto space on CoinMarketCap. I know everybody loves CoinMarketCap, but it's just easily accessible. I saw Bitcoin. What was it at? Like 13.6 earlier? It was 13.6, and then I get a notification. Oh, we're down. It's down like 20%. Then it was down, or 12%. It was down to like 11,000. Then all of a sudden it was up 5%, and it was up to 12,000, and it was all over the map. 11,696 is where it sits right now, up 6% for the day. XRP hit a high today of like 48. That was pretty good. That was pretty solid. Ethereum, I remember the other day we were talking about 305. It's at 332. Litecoin hit its high of, what was it, like 142, 143. Now it's back down to 129. So there was definitely fluctuation in the market's natural. Everything is going in this uptrend, but people are going to want to capture profits, and as more and more people are capturing profits, obviously we're going to see some movement in the space. So let's see what we got here. All right, let's move on. Bitrue, a newer exchange. The same thing happened to Binance early on. And people still don't trust Binance. That's a good point. You know, I was nervous when I first started using Binance way back, and you knew it was a Chinese exchange. I was really worried about putting anything over there, you know. So, and I remember they, had some issues with one of the wallets, and then I couldn't access my asset, and they shut it down. I'm like, oh, I just got screwed right away, and then they were legit though. Let's see, and Bubba Shipes says 100% of lost funds will be returned to users. And that's awesome. If they do that, then they're standing behind their policy. I think one of the things they said is that they're providing insurance. So as exchanges are providing insurance and backing up the digital assets that are kept on them, and they stand by their word, they don't get hacked for such a huge amount that, they go under, but the thing is, I think that, will speak volumes for the character of the people running that company. So New York City mayor is on TV right now in that Dem debate. Oh, what a wreck. Who cares? That's why it's not on. I'm not watching it. I'm competing with prime time. What do we got going on here? Let's see. How many people can we pull over for the Dem debate? We got 43 that aren't watching the Dem debate. So I think that's important. Anyhow, let's move on. Let's move on. Yeah, do screenshots of your accounts. That's a good point. Every time. Great advice. Make sure you keep a screenshot, and that definitely proves, date and time of what you had at that moment. That's definitely a good idea. So let's see. Let's move on. So I want to focus a little bit on banking. I'm sure you guys will have some comment and feedback. It just got really dry in here all of a sudden. All right. At least we're getting a good stream. No lag and everything else. That's awesome. So focusing on banking and banking without borders is so critical, so crucial. I started going down this mindset, and I thought it was important to talk about it, kind of bring it to light. Again, I think I'm preaching to the choir, but anyhow. So, for generations, really, we've all had relatively decent access. Jeff has more viewers than CNN. Damn right I do. I think there's a total of 1 on CNN, and that's probably the guy that's monitoring their newscast. Huh. Nobody wants to watch that debate. Forget about it. No fun. And there's just, what are there, like, I think there's like 100 of them running now. So for generations, again, having access to banking, we're talking about brick and mortar banking, has obviously, benefited society. It's really helped build society. It's really helped do a lot, probably for all of us here. But with every good thing, then, their time obviously comes to an end. So what's up, XRP Bags? Rector Trump keeps making fun of them on Twitter. Now that I should have a direct Twitter feed going on over here. I need to see if I can add one of those through OBS. That'd be awesome. And just start pulling in some of those tweets. So with everything that's going on in the banking space, though, it's I keep going back over here because these comments are great. You don't want to watch the not. No, I don't want to watch if it was a solo, rather, let alone a whole mess of them up there. So, so through internal ineptness, which I guess you guys are seeing in the debate, the potential for money laundering, which you might see up there in the debate, fraud, corruption, banks have obviously, through all of that, banks have obviously helped individuals, they've helped businesses, they've done so much within society, and really we change. If you look at, moving from, if you don't have to go that far to look at societies in existence now, more in the developing world that don't have access to banking, what has banking actually done to help, push and promote innovation, promote business building, promote, individual home ownership, car ownership, or whatever it might be. So, Mama Lacey, good to see you on. Eric Wallace, what's up? Good to see you here, all the way from the Brad Keim show. That's awesome. What is this? Sir Captain Sticks. Sir Captain's, what? Wait. Sir Captain Sticks. Sir Captain Sticks. Sir Captain Sticks. Man, why does everybody have such difficult names to read? Make it simple. So CAK, what's up? How does Tether print money? I don't understand how that works. And they do all sorts of great stuff over there as they back it by all sorts of things that aren't necessarily US dollar. So, but anyhow, focused on, on the banks. What's up? Extremely potent. Good to see you on. So through the banks, what do we get? We get small business loans. We get capital allocation. You have a liquidity provider, a facilitator of business transaction. You have corporate transaction. You have retail transactions. On the individual side, as we're just saying, you have mortgages, auto finance, school finance. You've got house renovation loans. You have your credit cards. You have a safe storage for your savings. You have accounts to manage your money. These are all the things that banking has provided to a developed society. Developing societies obviously are struggling to catch up to get all of this. So people think Trump's going to announce XRP soon. That will be interesting if he does. I'm not sure if that'll happen, but man, that'll be kind of crazy if he does. So with all the positives and all the internal negatives of banking, one of the things that we've definitely seen in the banking world is that it always seems to slant in the direction of benefiting the bank profit over the bankee profit. Interest rates to borrow are obviously exceedingly higher than the interest rates that are paid to the bankee that is storing their money. And so, there's always that, when you go into a bank, it seems as though they think that you need to really you need to worship them, and you need to be grateful and thankful that they've allowed you into their bank. Although they try to make it some form of a customer experience, for the most part, that customer experience doesn't always exist in those brick and mortar environments. But that's really the point is that in that brick and mortar banking environment, it's not necessarily accessible to everyone all over the world. Obviously, we've talked on this stream and we've talked in other streams about the unbanked, whether they're unbanked in the United States or whether they're unbanked in other parts of the world. Now, what is critical about all of that is that with a brick and mortar bank, it's extremely difficult to bank without borders because, as we understand the necessity and the need for Ripple and for cross-border payment solutions, for a MoneyGram, for this potential Facebook Libra coin. Why is it that everybody's fighting over this P2P space? Why is everybody fighting over the B2B space when it comes to large cross-border payment, bank to bank, corporation to corporation? It's because it's a critical space that has been relatively working within this in an analog way when everything else has been going digital. And so we really need to emphasize then that with all of the things that are transacting, how is it then that we're going to help all of those around the world that are unbanked? And there's a significant percentage in the United States that remain unbanked. There's a significant, millions of people globally that are unbanked. And what we want to be able to do is bring all of these individuals into the banking environment. So, Baldu, can't think of his name, but he is a moderate. No clue. Can't think of it. I have no idea. So what we want to really then, be able to accomplish is a couple things. One, with all of the negatives that we've established in the banking space, we talked a little bit about that yesterday. We talked about that the day prior. There's obviously, a lot of fraud that's been committed. We know that banks have paid over $243 billion in fines over the past 10 years. That's a huge amount of money, and yet they continue to walk down this path of committing fraudulent act and paying these large fines. But now within this blockchain crypto technology, it's really allowing the assimilation of one feature that the banks are running away from, and that's transparency. But even with that, with the knowledge that banks are running scared at this point, and we talked about this yesterday with Chip, why is it that, Libra coin, coming to the forefront? Why is it that the banks all of a sudden jumped to? Why is it the central banks were so terrified, with what was going on, or what the potential of the Libra coin, what does it actually mean to them? It actually means the fragmentation of the old ways of banking. It means the fragmentation of the brick and mortar banking. We have a new way of banking. We saw what Amazon did to brick and mortar retail, and we're going to see, and that's what they're terrified of, what Facebook represents, not necessarily what Facebook may do on its own, but what Facebook represents is really the end of brick and mortar banking. And the fact is that brick and mortar banking is a thing of the past. The fact is that more and more people are not finding the need to walk in to a brick and mortar location. And so, so what does that mean, for the individual? What does that mean for the business? That really means that things are moving, in a direction that, they need to be digitized. It means that we're moving in a direction that these brick and mortars, aren't, again, they're not necessary for the existence of, financial transaction. However, with all of that, Ellen DeGeneres had some great points last night. Yeah, it was really good to have Ellen DeGeneres on the show. So, with all of this, and I keep going back to thinking, when, in the beginning stages of Bitcoin, there was a heavy focus on, with Bitcoin and now with the cryptocurrency, that's going to be the end of banks. We're not going to need banks anymore because we have digital assets. So forget about the banks because, we just have digital assets and we have Bitcoin. But the reality is that you still need a third-party solution. Now, we've talked about this recently, and I keep wanting to go back and emphasize it, because without this banking concept, now the banks, and I've talked about the blurred line, I believe there's a blurred line that's happening at a faster and faster pace, and the brick and mortar banks understand it. And the reason why We know that the brick and mortar banks understand it is because JP Morgan rolled out the JPM coin, an internal digital asset on blockchain with blockchain technology that they want to utilize internally to speed up transaction processes. And so their promise is that they're going to roll this out before the end of 2019. Now that becomes very, very important, because that means banks understand it. But now, from a banking, focus, is that too little, too late? Because it kind of is, and we've talked about this before, but it's almost their way of remaining relevant. Now, one of the things that intimidates the banks as we gain this transparency, as they become less and less relevant, as they try to stay relevant, is that they're losing this slush fund. We're seeing that, like with MoneyGram, I think is a perfect example, that when it, with this new open flat cost of transaction out of Canada, which is basically 10 Canadian dollars up to 500. So if you're paying $10 for a $500 transaction, you're paying 2%. Now, when you look at it up to $1,000, your transaction cost goes to $15 or 1.5%, which is amazing. There's very little out there in terms of a payment structure like this, or a money transfer solution that's only charging 1.5 or 2%. But the thing is, as you get rid of more and more of these large monstrosity, brick and mortar structures, it doesn't mean that we don't need a concierge style solution. And in fact, I firmly believe that these large banking entities, they don't need, all of these people. They just need a few representatives, maybe in a strip mall. If you look at Capital One, they're opening up coffee shops that are also banking shops. There's one downtown here. I haven't been in it yet, but I walked by it. But it's interesting. It means that they're trying to reach out and they're trying to stay relevant. They realize that, what is it that millennials like? They think they like coffee. So they're opening up coffee shops. Come and hang out in our bank, and you'll see how awesome we are, because we know how to barista. We know how to serve up some cappuccino and espresso, and that's why you want to bank here. So there's so much they're begging customers to come back. As soon as you see banks that are offering you $400 to open a checking account or savings account in their bank, then they're struggling. They know that's their carrot to bring you in, because they want your money in their bank. They want to go out and utilize that capital to then go out and loan at the higher interest rates when they're probably paying you 1% on your money, and they want to get their 3-4% on the money. So it's crazy. So they sucker people in. Not to say it's a bad thing. Hey, you go open a checking account, you can get $400. It's not necessarily a bad thing. By all means, as long as it's they're not charging you on the back end and forcing you into a long duration. But now with a lot of the fintech companies and these fintech banks, I think they've really again put these brick and mortar banks on notice. There's just way too much going on. Now, with all of that being said, individuals need the banking space. And that's why I was just saying, I've said before, that there's been a blurring of the lines, because at the end of the day, regardless of what happens, individuals and businesses still need the support and services of the bank. They still need small business loans. We still need small business loans. Capital allocation. We still need the liquidity providers. We need a facilitator of business transaction, whether it's corporate or retail. Individuals need mortgages and auto loans and school financing and money for house renovation projects. And we still want to use credit cards. And we still want to be able to store our money somewhere. Now, the exchange is whether you're storing it as US dollar or you're still storing it as digital asset. That's the blurring of the line. Now, if we can feel safe, like you were saying, BitTrue was hacked, but they're backing it up. If you feel safe that you can put money into Coinbase and you can put money into Uphold, let's say I want to hold euro instead of US dollars. What business really is it of anyone's if I want to keep my money in euro and I want to put it onto Uphold and I'm going to buy euro instead? I feel like holding euro. I feel like holding, Bitcoin. I'm going to take a risk, if that's all my money and putting in Bitcoin because it's up and down. If I want to put in XRP, it's relatively stable within a few percent, but I don't know if I want to, go up and down, the 3% is my daily, my daily money that I'm spending. Plus, you have to think about the tax, the tax implication. Every time you want to use your digital asset, you're going to get charged an extra tax on that. And so, so there's there's a lot to think about there. But the point being is that if I'm going to, be able to bank with an Uphold, and then I'm able to take out a loan with an Uphold partner, if I'm able to get interest on my money, if I'm able to put my digital assets on that exchange and they're going to pay me 6 or 7%, heck, if they pay me 3% on my digital asset that's sitting doing nothing right now, that's awesome. Give me 3%. I think that's great. This is kind of a starting process of what they're doing. If I want a credit card, I don't need Chase brick and mortar with thousands of employees to have that credit card, when you can get more transparency through online transaction and minimize the number of personnel. But the point with all of this is that you still need the banking structure in some way, shape, or form. And since it's uplifted this part of society, we also need to then bring banking to those countries. We see what Zimbabwe is going through right now. Zimbabwe trying to reestablish their currency, which failed them before, which brought in all sorts of foreign currencies to prop up their economy, and people were trading in other foreign currencies because they were stable, but they couldn't utilize their own. So there's just a ton of things that are going on. Plus. I'm going to go to this in a minute because I think this is interesting when it comes to paying people to get paid for employment. Through the blockchain, I think is important. But let's say DNI, what's up, man? Glad to have you on. Sorry couldn't make it on your stream. I had a conference call that I had to be on at 8 o'clock, and it went for about an hour and a half. So let's see. The governor of the state of Washington is bragging that he gave free college tuition to illegal aliens. What a jackass. What an absolute jackass. Now, it's one thing, that you want to give free tuition. You know what? If people want to vote for that, that's awesome. You want to give free tuition to people in the United States that are citizens of the United States and they live here and they're here legally, go for it. That's your prerogative. If you're going to then, give college tuition to people that are here illegally, that's a whole different situation. And it's really a sham that that they're promoting the fact that they're giving medical handout, driver's license, and all these other things to illegal people that are illegally here in the country, when we have people that are homeless or living in homeless shelters that definitely need the support. Yet where are the politicians then, in these inner city communities that are a disaster zone? They don't go to those communities and say, you know what, we want to come in here and give you guys free college tuition to everybody here. They have their quotas and all this nicety that they get through, but it's just stupidity. Absolute stupidity what they're trying to do. Again, they're feeding emotion instead of rational thought. It's kind of disgusting. If you think about it, and it's extremely insulting to anybody, that has any, thought, because it just, again, they're just preying on people's emotions and none of it's real. It's all fake. It just drives me crazy. XRP minute. All right. Banks that are screwed. Oh, I love that. This is awesome. I love that. Banks that are screwed. There's two types of banks. Banks that are screwed and banks that don't know they're screwed. That's from Goldman Sachs. How true is that? And soon we're going to see the banks that are going to be bought out by the likes of Coinbase and Uphold and Binance. The thing is, Binance is coming to the U.S. Binance opens up here in the U.S. Man, look what they've done. Billions of dollars these guys are generating. They're generating more money than banks can generate in such a short period of time. We're talking about businesses that have been around for a year or 2 years. It's insane. So Let's see here. Bubba Shipes. Brad said, I'm going back up through the stream, guys. So Brad said, we're not partnering with Swift. We're taking over Swift. Just let that sink in, folks. Banks are at our beck and call. I agree. They see what's happening. These banks, man, they're flailing right now. They think if they ganged up on Zuckerman, and we'll see July 16th what that really all means. You know, it's just it's going to be interesting when they pull him in front of the Senate committee. It's going to be interesting. Let's see. Carl Wagner, what's up, man? Ripple is now setting up MoneyGram to move money cross-border for banks. That's right. I think there's a lot going on over there. I think they're testing. You know, they buy a large chunk of stock, a controlling interest, at least a strong voting interest in MoneyGram, and they have plans. They have a lot of plans. Beto the Beaver is eating his own. Beto, what a clown! I heard the guy's what is he? His heritage is Irish, and he realized that if he called himself Roberto and took on the name Beto, he would sound more Spanish to appeal to the Latin voters. What? How insulting! You know, I mean, it's unbelievable what these guys think. The craziness that they come up with as they run. I mean, it's just so stupid. You know, they want to be part of the culture, so they want to take someone else's, like Pocahontas over there. You know, stealing other people's cultural identity and making it their own, and then they still, you know, they don't think it's wrong. It's just unreal. It's just unbelievable how they get away with this nonsense. And then people are still going to want to vote for them and support them, regardless of the fact that they're absolute frauds. The government, we saw that. Did I just say all that out loud? I didn't really mean to. DNI, we talked about the Facebook Libra. The politicians will hate it, Zuck. But behind the scenes, the Intel folks will push it through. They love Facebook and will love Libra even more. Interesting. Very interesting. Beto, what a clown. Yeah, I did say that, didn't I? Did I say that? I didn't mean to say that. Let's see. All right. Going down this chat here. Facebook introducing their white paper caused the banks to hit the panic button. Chip XRP minute. That's awesome. And AOC's become a Southerner. How do you like that? Born and raised in New York City, but speaks with a Southern drawl. I don't get it. I don't know. I don't know how they do that. Bubba Stripes, inner voice. Yeah. Let me just sit here and think. I'll keep all my thoughts in my head. All right. So let me go back to where I was going here, and this goes to think about one extra component, putting the banks on the blockchain, allowing digital assets to become more integrated with our day-to-day existence. And I was thinking about this. What does it mean for paychecks? So could you imagine, you know, if you're able to get paid, you know, for work on a day-to-day basis, instead of waiting every 2 weeks, you know, it's just money flows in, money flows out. It's not obviously a reality in every scenario. Obviously, there's a lot of transaction that goes in a business. But if money is there, you know, if money is accessible and money's being generated, the company, you know, typically needs to leverage the incoming money for a period of time, and then they have an expectation of payroll. So that's not always going to be in the best interest of everybody involved. However, I was thinking about, you know, day labor or, you know, labor in general. You know, you're going and you give a day's hard work, and, you know, it's not involved in a sales. There's no buying and selling product. Let's say you're in construction, and you're part-time or whatever that might be. You know, do you have to wait, you know, 2 weeks to get paid, or can you be paid immediately for hours worked? Is there a strategy there? We know we talked about how, you know, digital asset can be used in the content creator environment, someone that puts music up. You know, there's so many ways through micropayment, and just globally, I think what's going to happen, and goes beyond the borders of the banks, outside of the banking walls, what can happen from a payment perspective. And I believe also that's kind of what Facebook is kind of knocking on that door a little bit. XLM is knocking on that door a little bit. XRP is knocking on that door a little bit with things like Coil and XRP Tipbot that we all know, obviously. So there's so much potential in what's happening, so it's interesting. And Tapline, yes, I say pay the labor, so it's interesting. You bring somebody in, just like if you're paying somebody, you get a lot of times you bring someone in for the day, you pay them cash, and off they go. In a digital asset environment, you can automate that process. You check in, you check out, clock in, clock out. Boom, as soon as you clock out your hours, you get paid. It just immediately transferred over to you. Clock in, the clock starts, you clock out. And the thing is, you'd have to have more of a tracking mechanism. If you kind of have those, we were talking about yesterday, the liquid lunches, and you have the revolving doors. Sometimes they had those in the plants in the automotive industry, and it was still going on. People would come in, they go out the turnstile, and off they go. And they found multiple instances of people hanging out at the bar, down the street. Forget about what goes on in the automotive plants and all that other crazy stuff. But there's just so many things that people haven't really thought of. But the most important aspect of it, though, in my opinion, is really thinking about those that are living day to day, those that take a paycheck and they need a cash advance, or they're not banked. And so in order to cash that check, instead of going to the bank that issued the check or the bank that the employee uses to cash the check, they end up going to the cash checking stores, and they end up paying a significant amount of money for that in order to get cash. But they're doing that mainly because they're living, just hand to mouth. They're basically spending every last dollar that they made that in that moment. But what's critical at that point also is to help facilitate the growth. And so what we're talking about in the beginning, the importance of the bank. What does it actually mean when someone's participating in the banking economy? Exactly. Rock Roberts, payday loans are vampires, and they're preying on people because they understand many times there aren't banks that are available in those communities, whether it's in bad areas of the U.S. or in developing countries. Banks aren't there. So if banks aren't in the community, they're not nearby, then it's going to be much less likely for those individuals to actually bank. And if they're not going to bank, but the thing is, guess what? Those payday loan stores seem to be there. The banks might not be, but the payday loan stores are, and they're cashing checks. And in many cases, the party stores or the convenience stores are cashing checks. So it's kind of a warped thought process, because we want to be able to help these individuals grow up in society and become more productive in society. We want to find a mechanism by which they're joining the economy at large, and even if they're living hand to mouth, giving them an opportunity then to be able to bank. And what we're seeing in the digital asset space, obviously, is that potential. So if there's ever a scenario where individuals are able to be paid from a digital perspective, which they can be, and they can have an account that doesn't cost them anything, and that account is backed up in blockchain, and you have more of an automated process, you have a transparent process, and it allows them to take what they have in their digital account, and they can then pay their landlord for rent. They can then pay whatever they owe on the car. They don't have to do it in cash. And in many scenarios, people were doing things in cash mainly because that's how they live, and you can't advance within the mainstream society if you're living like that. It just makes it extremely difficult unless you're making tons and tons and tons of money, and you can just go and buy, and you don't care what you're doing. But the thing is, people want to advance and they want to grow up. And you know, and they need that opportunity. And that's one of the things that I believe, that it's funny. People think, you know, get my thought process also. But you know, that Trump talks about leveling the playing field, that Rock Roberts just mentioned, you know, not having to pay 25% to cash a check. That's robbery, you know, to pay 25% to cash your check. If you make, you know, $300 and you got to pay out 25% of that, and then they're okay with that, that's insane, you know. But if you make your 300, 500, 100, you know, 1,000, whatever it is, why are you paying the you know, the check cashing store money to do that? It's absolutely insane. You know, it just doesn't make any sense. You know, it's just insane. So, you know, we need to, you know, have that solution, and that's the solution. And that's why so many of these entities are running scared now when they see a Facebook coming out with the Libra, because they see it happening in the periphery. They understood, the banks and these payday loan stores understood that mainstream hasn't had full visibility to the space yet. And that's what Facebook Libra represents. It's that presence. It's the face now of the digital asset space, because everybody knows Facebook. And if Facebook's in it, and Facebook offers Libra, and Facebook can, you know, and if Facebook is able to bring Libra to 2.6 billion people around the world, banks are terrified. And that's what it's all about, because that's mainstream. That's not just, you know, all of us sitting here and talking about it from an investment perspective. That's actual mainstream, full utility that's going to help make some changes. Again, whether it's Facebook or whether the full solutions that we understand with Ripple networking through MoneyGram, or maybe XLM, or many of the other potential solutions that are out there. You know, I think there's some opportunity here. So I think that's it. Look at that. I think I got through everything I wanted to say, and I actually skipped ahead. I'm going down here, and some of my thoughts that I put some bullet points on. That was pretty good. Man, what an awesome video. I'm very pleased. Very pleased. No. So let me go to the let me go to the chat here. Trump's level the playing field. That's it. It applies globally, internationally, as it does also apply on a more microcosm scale. So it's very, very interesting. Leveling the playing field between countries, and leveling the playing field for those that need to be banked and need to join our current economic society. So let me see here. Bubba Shipes, I saw this. I wanted to read this. I'm going down to the corner and hodling a cardboard sign that reads, "We'll leave for crypto. Let's see who wants to clean up their neighborhood." That's funny. We'll leave for crypto. I like that. Imagine, you know, you can give crypto to people. Give them a few XRP as you see them out there on the off the freeway off ramps. All right, all sorts of crazy statements going on over there. Tap line C. If I have a person come to my home and mow my yard, I should be able to pay him now with XRP or BTC. Exactly. And we should definitely be able to do that. And that shouldn't be a taxable event for us. And that's what Ted Budd and Warren Davidson and many of the others, you know, are trying to work on to make sure that wouldn't be a taxable event if we want to pay our long guy. My long guy came today, and I didn't know what time he was going to come, and he likes to pick up his check. So I had the check ready. I didn't know he was coming today. He didn't let us know. And all of a sudden he shows up late, and I was gone. So he didn't get his check. But how nice would it be? He shoots me a text message. Obviously, I can go to any other of the online methodologies of payment, you know, but it'd be awesome. Hey, I got to pay you. Let me shoot you an XRP tip bot, and I'm going to pay you the $30 today for mowing the lawn. That'd be pretty sweet. And then boom, and then it's, you know, it's easy, you know, it's trackable, and it's not taxable. So, all right, let's I see you guys have got some great comments. I feel like I'm watching the debate over here, just reading your comments. That's why I keep getting sidetracked reading the comments. I mean, what did Jeff Rome say that's so shady? Slim Shady. What are your thoughts on the widespread outage today when Bitcoin started dumping, i.e. Coinbase and other exchanges? Shady, unacceptable. Sorry, got here late. Yeah, someone brought that up early on, but I did see that, and I was reading the article. Where did I put it? I thought I pulled it up. Maybe not. Here it is. I did pull it up. So this was... And I thought it was kind of crazy, too, because I saw it, and I kept getting messages from Coinbase, and everything was kind of like bouncing all over the place, price-wise, within short periods of time. And so in this article, let's see, when was this published? At 9:20 UTC. What the heck is UTC time-wise? I don't know where that would put me. I don't know what the time difference is between me and UTC. But... anyhow, so this is the price. Bitcoin dropped 1.8K in 15 minutes, and then it came right back. It was like this rubber band. It was really weird, you know. So it looked like it was the platform was inaccessible on both mobile and desktop. Let me see. According to trading app Robinhood, also had issues. So if Robinhood had issues, Coinbase had issues, BitTrue was hacked. According to data, BitMEX nearly $250 million in volume traded hands in a 5-minute period surrounding the initial drop, with $690 million in volume trading across 15 minutes. Due to there's all sorts of crazy stuff, and then they just kind of wrap it up. Nothing really interesting there. I don't know. I mean, it was just kind of crazy, but again, if you relate back to what happened, we were saying that in the beginning, 17-18 time frame, and they were blaming it on too many people jumping in at the same time. You know, I don't know if that's what's going on here. So I really don't. I don't know if that's the situation. XRP Minute. I might have a special guest on tomorrow night. That we'll have to see. We'll have to see if we have another special guest on tomorrow night. Maybe we can do something more on. We'll figure it out. The chip and HODL hour. There we go. Be like Chip and Dale. Jeff and Chip. You pay with Zelle. That was fun and a rush. I don't know what that. All right. Hang on. So jumping all over the place. Great room, great chat. Appreciate that. Michael Lynn, Stuart H. That's why the Republicans better support discharging student loans and bankruptcy. Yes, because it's one issue. It's that one issue is a huge problem, as so many people are saddled with student debt. I would like to see, I think that you're right. That's definitely a big issue, Stuart. And I would definitely like to see them talking about the transfer of wealth to universities and the skyrocketing cost of tuition, as they discuss the skyrocketing costs of healthcare that incidentally both of them have government involvement, student loans backed by the Fed, and insurance that is now also backed by the government, or at least in part, or then it's backed by insurance companies. There's obviously so much more to it, but you know, the fact that you have a ridiculous cost of healthcare, and instead of being in a cash pay model, you have no idea what you're paying. These are two environments that go beyond, really beyond comprehension. Number one, who goes to, you're basically, buying something. You go see a doctor, you're buying a service. Who goes to do something and doesn't ask how much it's going to cost? I got to go to the doctor. My insurance going to cover it. What's your copay? I don't know what my copay is. I don't know. So you're going to go down here and pay all this stuff. How much did you put into your insurance? I don't know. I mean, obviously people have an idea how much they pay monthly, but that's another issue. Is that you have no idea how much that healthcare costs, and people are getting saddled in debt over healthcare costs, and people are getting saddled in debt over tuition costs. But there's only, two instigators. One is the insurance that drove up the price of medical care because of government involvement and in some part big corporate involvement in the insurance industry. And we saw a big transfer of wealth from the government over to insurance companies. And we see the same thing with university and college tuition. And yet the government is blaming it on everybody else, but they know what they're doing. They're moving $1.3 trillion to these universities that, again, are just preaching and promoting misinformation. So that's it. That's it. I've gone over my hour. I'm surprised you guys didn't say, hey, your hour's up. Get the heck off. So anyhow, I got to wrap it up. I don't know why I keep losing my voice, but I am out of here. Really, hang on. There we go. Appreciate everybody coming on. Glad everybody was here. It's awesome. Love seeing you guys in the stream. Definitely helps, keep things moving forward. Everybody gets to contribute. Everybody gets to learn. Look forward to seeing you guys. Apparently, we'll be streaming again tomorrow night, Thursday, at 10 p.m. Friday night with Rain at 10 p.m. So look forward to seeing you guys again tomorrow night. Hopefully, we'll have our special guest on, and then Max Headroom will be with us tomorrow night, and we'll have some great things to talk about. See you guys at that time, 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and then make sure you check out Auburn Rain Friday at 10 o'clock, and then I'll be on Saturday at 8 a.m. Until then, I'm out.